In June of 2019, I left our home in Virginia Beach, Virginia, heading west on an Asphalt Odyssey. Miriam joins the Odyssey in Albuquerque, and we tour New Mexico and Colorado together before she heads home in Colorado Springs. Then, 28 days after leaving Virginia Beach, I return home. In this video, Miriam and I will cover how we planned the trip, what worked and what did not work, what we would do differently, and what we would never do again. Morning, guys. If you ever had a desire to understand what a zombie feels like, I have the formula for you. You take a 60-year-old metabolism, you give it a really good head cold, thank you, my love, and you get it 4 hours of sleep the night before, then you take it to 9,000 feet above sea level to walk around a beautiful little town. And then you drop the temperature to about 45, 50 degrees, and you make it rain. Then you ride on a beautiful train that just rocks back and forth for 4 hours. It's all part of the journey.
Yep. Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind is getting sick. You know, that was not in the cards. And, you know, I think we did a pretty good job of pushing through, but really I started to feel bad day 2 into the trip. And I just really regret that. Wish I had had a higher level of energy to really do some additional things. We kind of paced our touring and what have you based on, you know, how we were feeling. So I think we adapted pretty well, but I don't know if, you know, taking vitamin C, choosing a different airplane seat, washing my hands a little bit longer, you know, who knows, but that was just the cards that we were dealt, and we just had to deal with it. And spend, what, $50 on cough syrup between the two of us.
Well, considering how bad we were feeling, I think we made the most of it. So it turned out, it didn't turn out as bad as it could have been. It's like, what's the old saying? It could have been worse.
Yeah, well, we never had to go to urgent care, and we were kind of...
Got close.
Yeah, we were thinking about it, but never actually had to make it. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
And what is it that I wish would have turned out a little bit differently? Well, I'm torn about this one, but the answer is Wolf Creek Pass. You know, we planned for months on this trip, and Wolf Creek Pass was something that I've been wanting to experience for a long time. Very scenic drive. I had actually reviewed the route on Google Earth and memorized the entire thing. But what I didn't anticipate was the weather. I don't know how you second guess that one. Maybe there's a separate weather forecast for the Wolf Creek Pass that I missed. But we ran into some really, really nasty weather, the ice storm. And there's a video in our channel from the Asphalt Odyssey that kind of goes over the ice storm. But it's one of those things that, yeah, it was a little uncomfortable, a little nerve-wracking. But had we not had done it, or had we not experienced it, we wouldn't have had the story. And the adversity, or when the plan falls apart, is when the stories really begin. So yeah. That's my take on that. You always got to think about the positives that come out of it. Yeah, we almost died, but we got a great story.
Well, it was a true learning experience too.
Yes.
But to piggyback on that, another regret is Salida. We never made it to Salida because of Wolf Creek Pass, and I have this thing about liking to have reservations before I arrive in a new place. So the night before, we had made reservations. We thought we had a pretty nice setup at a bed and breakfast in Salida, but they were not very concerned about what we had experienced in Wolf Creek Pass. They had a no refund policy, and they were holding to that despite what we had experienced. So we ate that expense, and you know, it was certainly cheaper than making an emergency room visit, so I guess you have to look at it that way. But I don't know, maybe we should have chosen a different spot in Salida that was more flexible on their refund policy, or just waited till that afternoon to try to find something. But I do regret, and we'll have, when we go back to Colorado, we'll have to make a point of visiting Salida and returning to Colorado Springs, and Pagosa Springs. There was a lot we didn't get to in Colorado.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm shooting this segment on Miriam's Prism helmet camera that I have hijacked now that she is on her way back to Virginia Beach. Last night in the hotel, I went to download all of yesterday's files, and since we had a couple of rest days, or non-ride days, and found out that maybe 80% of the files were missing. And I am just fit to be tied. A lot of good scenery gone. One of my other regrets, which I actually titled one of our videos, is the loss and misfiling or losing video. I lost a micro SD card which had some great video on it.
About this big.
About that big. You know, if you've ever worked with a micro SD card, it's as big as your pinky nail, and it was black in color, and I left it laying on the black desktop and totally forgot about it. And my plan was to simply every single day download all the video from all the cameras, both of the helmet cameras, the GoPro and the Cyclops and the Canon camera, and save it on 2 different hard drives, portable hard drives that I had purchased just to make sure we didn't lose any video. Well, I didn't do that as regularly as I thought, and when I went to download the video, I realized that we had lost a disc and that my Prism, my Prism camera on my helmet was malfunctioning, and I didn't realize it was doing it because it was an intermittent problem. Lost a lot of good video. So that's my second one. I was shooting for an hour of raw video per day, ended up with 16 hours when I really wanted to have about 28 hours of raw video to really crunch down some really good quality finished videos for YouTube, for you guys to watch. So lesson learned, it'll never happen again.
Yeah. Yeah, there are always things in the pack list. You know, I didn't think about. I had just been to Phoenix the month before with my kids, and I knew that it was going to be dry out west, and I didn't bring a good body lotion or a saline nasal spray, and should have packed those things. I don't know what I was thinking. Packed too many clothes. I was thinking summer shorts when I don't think I wore shorts the entire time that we were in Colorado. So always things like that can improve upon.
And you just don't know what you expect. I didn't know what I was going to run into, so I packed a lot of cooking gear, thinking that I may eat on the side of the road someplace. I brought my camp stove, some fuel, water, coffee, freeze-dried foods, larger pots, and never unpacked them. In retrospect, it's comforting to know that I had a camp stove with the ability to make a hot beverage on Wolf Creek Pass, should we had actually got stranded up there, but we never used it. So would I take it again? I don't know. It'll depend on the trip.
Yeah, and the nice folding chairs that we have.
We have some really nice folding chairs that really are very compact that we took with us, and I hauled them all the way from Virginia Beach to Colorado, New Mexico, and back home again, and we took them out of the container one time. But the one time we did take them out, they were worth their weight in gold. This is day 2 after Wolf Creek Pass, and I was just, my energy level was spent. We pulled over on Interstate 25 at a rest stop, found a nice shade tree, and we took a really good, I fell asleep in the chair, set the chair up under a tree, and just went right into, just zoned right out. So that was good. That was the only time we used those chairs.
Yeah, you do have a special napping gift.
I had been to advanced combat napping school, so I can sleep anywhere, anytime.
Yeah.
Some of the other points I want to talk about that was brought up on the channel is like, what did this trip actually cost us? Without actually giving you the bottom line, I just want to break down what we had budgeted for, and it pretty much came in on budget. When I was traveling cross country, I was budgeting about $100 a night for a hotel room. Some nights there were 80, some nights there were 120, so they averaged out to be about $100 a night. I had budgeted $20 a day for my food while I was traveling, and that was on budget.
While you were traveling by yourself.
Yes.
Well, you know, one thing I think we should comment on is accommodations. I have to say, we had some exceptional accommodations. Yeah. The Airbnb in Santa Fe was just fantastic. In fact, that was where you made that video.
Oh yes,
the secret location.
The undisclosed location, because I didn't want to let everybody know how the trip was progressing because the videos are lagging behind. We were doing one finished video a week, but the trip only took 4 weeks. We actually shot that clip in the courtyard in the Airbnb in Santa Fe. So that was the undisclosed location. One of our viewers had asked that. Now you know the answer.
Yeah. And the Strater Hotel in Durango was fantastic.
Yes.
You know, just for the experience, the historic hotel experience. And the Plan B hotel at Monte Vista, the Movie Manor, Best Western, that turned out to be perfect for what we needed that particular day. Airbnb in Colorado Springs, it was okay, but not sure that I would. It was a basement apartment. It just always felt cold and damp, and we weren't feeling well. Maybe that was part of it. So probably should have looked at those descriptor details in the posting a little more closely.
It wasn't a bad place. It just wasn't idealistic for what we were shooting.
Yeah, it just wasn't really comfortable. There weren't places to sit and relax. You had a choice of a dining room, straight back chair, or the bed, and it would have been nice to have some other options and have somewhere to hang up our gear and clothes.
Yes. Well, I did spend a lot of time in the bed sleeping, I'll tell you, after Wolf Creek Pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a great comment about considering campgrounds like KOAs as an alternative. They often offer cabin rentals, and you really hadn't thought about that, but that's an excellent idea.
We have a trailer. We have a lot of options. So on other trips, we may consider state parks and KOA campgrounds and the like, not to camp necessarily, but for cabin rental. Mm-hmm. That way, we'll be into the wilderness and away from the cities. That was one of my few regrets on the trip is that every place we went, we stayed at a hotel in a city. Some were really good, some were, they were okay. But they were always in an urban environment, and we went out there to enjoy the wilderness. So perhaps campgrounds and state parks would be great ideas.
And give you more opportunity to connect with other people.
And that's another thing. On the trip out, I don't think I actually had a conversation with hardly anybody except the young lady who ran the restaurant at the Texas state line, the watering hole, a couple of motorcyclists, a couple of travelers at the Route 66 museums. But I really wanted to engage people and talk with them and to hear about them. That's part of the travel, and I missed that. So maybe staying at campgrounds, there'll be a different type of a vibe.
Yeah. And I guess we all have a different threshold for what's essential cost and what we're willing to spend on splurges. And we certainly did take some splurges.
Yes.
The Japanese spa was a splurge. You had at least one massage on your trip by yourself.
That was sort of a necessity because of my back pain from the first 3 days of holding your arms out like this and riding upright. But once I got over that hump for the rest of the trip, I was fine.
Yeah. And the Durango train back from Silverton was a splurge, but absolutely worth it. Really enjoyed that. We enjoyed visiting the Royal Gorge, although that's kind of a touristy spot and a little bit pricey. Boarding our bird, believe it or not, was quite an expenditure. It was $10 a day just to keep him in bird seed. So that. And I understand it's going up, so our next trip it'll be even more. But you got to do what you got to do. Yep.
And the last line of the budget item was gasoline. I didn't know what the mileage was going to be for the Spyder pulling the trailer. It was a little bit lower. I think I was averaging about 36 to 38 miles per gallon. But the price of gas was actually lower than I anticipated. So it washed out to be exactly what I was expecting to spend. So that without going into details of how much we spent, because your trip will be different depending on your excursion and how much you spend on hotel rooms and that sort of thing. I can eat pretty cheap along the way. Doing some video editing. That's going to be the rest of the afternoon. I'm not going to leave the room. I'm going to have dinner here. I have got a gourmet meal picked out, so I'm going to show it to you. Miriam, turn your head. Got some Chef Boyardee beef ravioli, some French cut green beans, and some Pringles potato chips. I know what you're thinking. No, you can't have any.
And for the record, I do not eat food out of a can when I travel the way John does.
Sometimes it's good eating. One of the other things we want to talk about is how did the Spyder perform? A lot of questions about that with the weather we experienced. I got to tell you, the Spyder with the trailer performed perfectly. First, I didn't even have any idea as far as performance that I was actually carrying an extra load with the trailer. It's tracked straight and true in the wind. The only time we ever had a problem with the steering was because it was on ice. It's not designed to go on ice. It is not a snowmobile. It may look like a snowmobile, but it is not a snowmobile. The transmission did exactly what it was supposed to do when the back wheel was spinning in the ice. It took itself out of gear, but it did so with a very loud clunking sound that I had not experienced before. I was convinced that the transmission was eating itself, but it didn't. It brought us home fine. So never missed a beat. It started every single time. It performed flawlessly. It did exactly what it was designed to do for long distance touring and traveling. And for that, I got to thank BRP. Great product.
It did really need a bath when it got home.
I think I mentioned this. It looks like Hollywood special effects had been there and sprayed it with dirt. It was just incredible.
Yeah. Well, wasn't there something in John Steinbeck's book, Travels with Charlie, about the fact that sometimes the trip ends early before you actually return home?
Yeah, and just to reemphasize that, just before the trip, I read John Steinbeck's only travel essay that was not a fiction novel. It was a memoir about him driving around the country with his dog named Charlie and a pickup truck with a camper shell. And very good reading. But he described that sometimes, a trip has a life of its own. And it is a personality. You have to live with it, with the goods and the bads and all the ups and the downs. And sometimes a trip will end before you're home. And I think that happened to me. I think by the time that Miriam flew back from Colorado Springs and I put her on the plane and I crossed into Kansas on the Kansas line, I think I was about ready to be home. Even though we had a long trip ahead of us and I shot lots of video, I kicked myself in the butt. Kansas City, St. Louis. I'm a barbecue fan. I'm a barbecue freak, and I didn't stop at those places. Louisville, Kentucky, the home of bourbon. I didn't stop. Just motored on home and got home in 8 days. And in retrospect, I regretted it, but I just wanted to get home because I think the trip had ended before I was home. Yeah, and it's not a function of just time. I think it's a function of perhaps exhaustion.
Yeah, not feeling well.
And had I taken the rest days, in retrospect, I should have taken the rest days I had programmed in, or the non-ride days. I would not have been as exhausted, and I would have enjoyed the return trip home more, and had more video for you guys to watch.
Yeah, so lessons learned.
Lessons learned. So guys, that's going to wrap up today's video. I thank you very much for tagging along on our little motorcycle trip around the country. I could just tell you that I have longed all my life to do stuff like this and shoot videos and share with other folks. So it's a thrill for me to see our view count go, that other people are enjoying what we enjoyed.
But really, all in all, it was a fantastic trip, despite the cold and the ice storm, our colds and the ice storms, and maybe some less than perfect accommodations. The memories I think we developed in that trip we'll be talking about for a long, long time. Yeah,
this was I don't want to say it's a trip of a lifetime, but it's going to be seared into my memory for a long time. We hope we do other trips similar to that, but that was an epic trip.
Yeah, and kind of like a good appetizer, it left us wanting more. Yeah.
28 days, came home exhausted, unpacked the Spyder, washed the Spyder, rested, got over my cold, and it's like, what's next? So eager to go again.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I guess we're going to go ahead and start wrapping up today's video. Appreciate you guys watching. And as always, don't forget to subscribe and press that little bell button, which is up here or down here somewhere, so you get notified when the videos come out. And did anything else that you wanted to add?
Well, ditto to everything that you said, and also don't forget to comment, because we really love to hear the comments.
Yes, we do.
And respond.
The interaction is what we love about this.
Yeah, but I guess the one question some folks may have is, what's next?
Well, it's a bit early. We're still digesting and chewing on the Asphalt Odyssey from 2019. I know you said you had some ideas, so what were you thinking about?
Well, I did have an idea. You remember?
Pray tell.
Here we go again.